Welcome back. Time now for a check of the top business news stories. For that, I'm joined by Matthew Warren. Morning, Matthew.
Morning.
Now, yet more in pain in Spain during the last 24 hours.
Yes, there's been a lot of bad news from Spain. We've just had figures out from Spain on the unemployment for March, and the rate has gone up again. 24.4% is the latest figure. That's 5.7 million Spaniards out of work. Now, that comes on top of Standard & Poor's last night, who downgraded Spain by another 2 notches. All of this is going to combine, of course, to raise concerns about Spain, probably raise borrowing costs as well for them on the bond markets.
Not much better picture here in France either. Certainly, nothing like those figures, but the jobless rate going totally in the wrong direction for Mr. Sarkozy.
That was up for the 11th month running. Not the kind of thing he really wanted just in this final stage of the campaign. France had an extra 16,000 job seekers. It was reported that's a 2.8 million, or getting close to 3 million now out of work in France.
So 2 fairly grim European stories, but you've got one less grim one up your sleeve.
Yes, the Dutch government, they resigned, of course, on Monday after budget talks collapsed there. But last night they managed to find a solution. Caterina Vitozzi has the story.
No one knew whether they'd be able to agree next year's budget by Monday's deadline, but they've done it. Dutch Parliament's settled on an EU-demanded austerity programme to bring their public deficit down from 4.6% to within 3% of its GDP by 2013. The country's government collapsed in the process, but lawmakers say they are now committed to stability.
It's very important to show the financial markets commitment of the Netherlands, the government, the parliament, the majority in the parliament, to reach the targets of the Stability and Growth Pact, to reform the economy and to allow for solid government finances.
That commitment should help the Netherlands guard its AAA credit rating. It's one of only 4 Eurozone countries who still have that top credit ranking, and it's important it keeps it. Eurozone countries are guarantors for the European Bailout Fund. That European Financial Stability Facility's own credit rating is mainly based on the creditworthiness of its contributors. The more Eurozone countries are downgraded, the higher the risk that the fund will be too, making it harder to finance bailouts. So it's vital that the Eurozone's strongest economies, like the Netherlands, show they're committed to controlling their debts and prove they've enough financial firepower to guarantee the €440 billion bailout fund.
All right, so lots for investors to think about. How the market's starting the day.
Well, let's take a look at Europe. As you say, lots to digest. The European markets opening up all in negative territory, and the IBEX there, that's down 1.5%. So it'll be an interesting day in Europe. Over in Asia, markets there had an interesting day as well. The Nikkei in particular, a bit of a roller coaster ride after the Bank of Japan announced around 47 billion euros it was injecting into the economy. It rose first and then it fell back again to close in the red.
All right, a rather disappointing end to the week then in Asia. But let's take a look at some company news now. The German car maker Daimler has reported net profits up 20% for the first quarter. But the company said earnings at its Mercedes-Benz division slipped 3%. Profits boosted by a stronger performance from its financial services division and in its share in the aerospace firm EADS.
The Federal Trade Commission in the US has beefed up its probe into Google by hiring a top lawyer. The FTC has hired Beth Wilkinson as part of its look at allegations Google abused its dominance of internet search. Wilkinson is best known for helping convict Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh in 1997.
The creator of the popular Facebook games Farmville and Cityville has reported a first quarter loss of 65 million euros. Zynga Facebook's games are played by almost 300 million people a month. Well, the company is important to Facebook. It contributed 15% of their online revenues in the first quarter of this year. Now, German workers agreed to belt tightening on wages for years. Now they're determined to reap the benefits of German growth. While long criticised for accepting too many sacrifices for too long, unions are once again mobilising all across Germany. The number of strikes is increasing.
Our demand for 6.5% is absolutely justified when we know that Deutsche Telekom pays dividends of 3.5 billion to its shareholders.
They've been staging walkouts for weeks, in Berlin and across the rest of the country. Deutsche Telekom's employees are demanding a pay rise of 6.5%, nothing less. And they're not the only ones. In more and more areas of the country and an increasing number of sectors, workers are mobilising. The metal industry is also stepping up to the plate.
During the crisis, we made no demands because our priority was holding on to our jobs. But after seeing the profits from 2011 and how the order books are full, we want our piece of the pie.
The unions are on a roll. Membership has increased in the metal sector since January. Strengthened by this following, they are now putting their foot down. But for the vast majority of employers, wage increases of 6.5% are simply unrealistic.
We compete with companies from countries which have much more favourable wage structures than ours. So yes, there will be increases, I think a little above the inflation rate, something between 2 and 3%.
A compromise is not in sight, but it is certain that wage increases would have positive effects on domestic demand in Germany and the rest of the Eurozone.
If Germans have more money in their wallets, there will be greater demand for goods from Italy, Spain, and France.
Employees are ready to fight for an increase in purchasing power. Important warning strikes are planned by the metal industry to start on Sunday.
So angry workers there. Well, there could be more industrial trouble on the way after Lufthansa was reported to be cutting 3,000 of its staff. Now, the company has said it's looking to make cuts in its workforce of 116,000, but now Germany's Bild Zeitung has said that its 3,000 admin staff, half of those in its Frankfurt headquarters, are going to get the chop. The company's yet to confirm whether that's true.
Right, and finally, a company boss in the United States has kicked up a bit of a stink in her neighbourhood by deciding she's building a rather large house based on a famous building.
Yes, that's right. The Washington Post has reported this, that Young Lee, now she is the 38-year-old head of a chain of sleep disorder clinics. She's decided to build herself a new house. She's got $20 million to spare for it, and she's decided to be inspired by the Château de Versailles here in Paris. Now, this hasn't gone down well. Now, those are pictures we're looking at of the real Château de Versailles, and she's looking to create that kind of landscape garden effect as well. But her plans are not welcomed by all her neighbours. Another big company boss, or former boss, Craig Dubau, he was head of Gannett, which is America's biggest newspaper publisher. He doesn't like the idea at all. He says it's going to ruin the area. They're having to chop down lots of trees. People not happy about it. This is a huge house. Do you want to hear some details?
Yeah.
2,300 square metres, or 25,000 square feet in old money. 3 two-car garages. I like this. The master bedroom suite has 6 rooms, including an art gallery. Because, frankly, you need to have an art gallery, don't you, in your...
Yeah, it sounds like just like my house.
I'm sure it is, Tom. Anyway.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that, Versailles, I think it's not the first time, actually, a company boss has decided to be inspired by Versailles. I think there's been a couple of mini Versailles. There might actually be one already in China. I'm not sure. Somewhere just outside Shanghai. I think I read about one there.
And of course, there are lots of Chinese buying the real thing here in Bordeaux, for example, snapping up chateaux around there.
Yeah, we've done reports on that, actually, on France 24. Chinese people going and buying chateaux and starting to create wines and things of their own.
Yeah, well,
good stuff. Well, there are worse buildings to be inspired by than that one.
True.
Thank you very much indeed, Matthew Warren. That was The Business. Well, thanks for watching. Do stay tuned. Louise Hannah will be back in just a moment with more news headlines.
Le premier tour représente une sanction du quinquennat qui s'achève. J'y consacrerai toute l'énergie dont je suis capable. Le 6 mai, je veux une victoire, une belle victoire. Les Français ont le droit à la vérité et à la clarté. Tout commence.
Follow all the events as they happen on France 24.